And we're back with Armstrong School District's Education Today. We're talking with Mrs. Stacy Klugen, Mr. Ron Steffi, and Mr. Dave Rupert about the planned Rails to Trails and Street project in Ford City. The project that we brought you in to talk about today is a combination of a trail and street project in Ford City. Can you tell us about this project and what it all will involve?
Yes, we'll let Dave take care of that because he was in the start of getting the DCNR grant information going.
I'll take care of the trail part of it. Whenever the Ford City Trail was developed, it was stopped at 14th Street at the northern end of the developed trail corridor. There's about a 3-block section up to 17th Street that was not completed at that time, and then there's a small section from 17th Street up to McCain Street in Manorville that was done back in the, oh my goodness, the early 1990s, and it just basically needs refreshed. So the Allegheny Valley Land Trust partnered with Ford City Borough Council and the County of Armstrong to submit a DCNR, that's Department of Recreation and Conservation and Natural Resources, grant application to provide some funding to finish the trail through there, refresh the trail from 17th Street to McCain Street, and then also to remove a couple of barricades where you have guardrails or guide rails along 17th Street to allow for the trail users to cross there at a much safer angle rather than going out onto the street the way they have to now. So that project was funded by DCNR. The county is administering the grant application on behalf of Ford City Borough, and in speaking with Ford City Borough, I believe that the preliminary steps, the preliminary drawings have been approved by DCNR, the right-of-way certification's been done by DCNR, and then Stacy and I are talking about having a work day
February 22nd.
February 22nd, to get some local community volunteers out there to start some of the early efforts on doing some pruning along the trail and getting some of the preliminary steps done to either getting a contractor in there or getting the borough workforce, etc., in there to work with us to basically grade and then finish that section of trail.
Why this project?
It needs done. I mean, there is part of the trail that isn't done, so as Ford City residents and him being in his area that he is, he felt it was a need, and that's what we agreed upon. And we want the completion of the entire trail to be complete in our town. One part of the whole.
Well, we mentioned earlier about the litigation that went on for, I believe it was 16.5 years. As we developed the trail, we developed sections where we either didn't have any problems with neighboring landowners, or where we had cooperation with neighboring landowners, and we built those sections of trail. And it left small sections that we were unable to do until the litigation was resolved. Once the litigation was all resolved, then we said, okay, now we need to come back and call it fill in the gaps or fill in the holes. And that's what the Ford City project is doing. It's filling in one of those holes.
And along with that project, there's a lot of other projects along the Armstrong Trail that are being improved. That as you go just a little further north in Manorville, we're planning, and we have the funding to finish the trail the whole way through Manorville and reestablish a bridge across Water Street that had to be taken down in the late 1990s. The next areas, there's some areas in Katanning here around Chestnut Street, and as you exit Katanning, that we're going to take care of those gaps and make trail improvements. Templeton is another area, and once all of those areas are completed, then we'll have the whole area from Crooked Creek up to East Brady finished, and then we can start to look at the Brady Tunnel and going to our trail that is above the Brady Tunnel and make our connection to Foxburg. So I look at the next several years that I can get on my bicycle in Katanning and ride to the Foxburg Inn and have a lunch and come back.
And what kind of effect do you feel it'll have on the community?
People get out more, do more, and as you said, you're extending the trail. You're going to have different people coming into your community. You'll have your Pittsburgh people, your people from Erie. You know, everybody might come down to our local towns, and they'll generate business. You know, they'll come in and have lunch, or stop and say, "Oh, maybe I'll spend the night somewhere." You know, and they'll be able to just do more things in our local areas from another city or different counties.
The Eat, Play, Ride that the Armstrong Rails to Trails Association is having this May 17th on the Armstrong Trail is one where they're doing a small hike, like a 4-mile hike, and then they're doing 2 rides, one of I think it's 16 or 18 miles and one of about 30 miles. There's those of us that like to do longer rides, and we organized a 60-mile ride for that day. It's going to be an Armstrong Trail end-to-end ride. Well, there's people that I ride with all over the Commonwealth, and what I did was I sent out an email to each of them and said, "Are you interested in doing this?" And so far I've gotten back about a half a dozen. Yeah, you know, I'm going to come on out the day before. We'll, you know, stay in the hotel. You know, we'll participate in the Eat, Play, Ride because they want to do things like that. They enjoy, you know, again, the socialization of getting out there and riding with other people, and also getting out there and riding with people who enjoy riding longer distances like that. I do want to relate a small funny story to you. Last summer, whenever we were riding up to East Brady to have lunch, we met a guy at the bridge at Red Bank Creek who was from the Clearfield area, and he brought his bike down to the Brookville area and rode down to Red Bank Creek, and you know, he was basically lost. He didn't know which way to go. So we took him up to East Brady with us. He ate lunch with us, and whenever we came back down to the bridge, he says, "Okay, now which way is my car?" And we said, "That way, about 41 miles." You know, so you know, I mean, it's one of those things where he wants to ride with us this year, you know, and he also happens to be a bridge engineer with PennDOT, you know, so you know, it's one thing, you make professional friendships there as well as, you know, some personal friendships, you know, so.
It's good for the town and everyone in it.
Good
Yes,
for the
yes.
town, yeah.
I get more and more requests from people. It used to be Pittsburgh, and now it's all of Allegheny County and beyond, and people in Ohio, that they want to know where they can come, where they can eat when they come to the Armstrong Trail. Are there places to stay overnight? Can they break it up over several days? So when these people are coming, they may be coming now for several days. And when they leave, the only thing they've left is their money that they've spent at the local restaurants and gas stations and others. So this is bringing money into the area.
And their enjoyment of using the
Right.
trail.
Yeah.
And the YMCA uses for their half marathon. They use it for a fundraiser event so that they have funds to do other things. And I think what's really nice about the trail is it's bringing more and more people in, but the local people are able to use it too, that you don't have to get on there and go 20 miles, that you can go a quarter of a mile in a walk in an evening or a run or something like that, and it's there so that the locals can do what they want to on the trail as long as it's non-motorized. But the enjoyment is there for people coming into the area as well as the locals. Unlike like Disney World, where you know the locals are just overwhelmed with everyone coming in, that it's just for tourists to come into the area. This is something that's giving benefits to everyone.
What's your standing timeline for the project?
In Ford City?
Sure.
That's a tough
That's
question.
a tough question, yes.
Yeah.
It's just beginning, so we've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, the DCNR grants are typically for a 3-year period, so we're in year 1 right now. So again, assuming that we don't have any problems, I would say we'll prep the trail this year, probably by late September, have it ready to be surfaced. Again, assuming that we don't have any problems, you might even be able to do the surfacing of the trail this fall, put up the necessary signage and stuff, and then modify the guide rails. Conceivably could be done by the end of this year. Realistically though, the way things typically go, because it's a government-funded project and working with governments, I would say you're talking the end of 2015. You'll see that section done.
Do you have any other organizations that are going to partner with you on the project?
Yes, the Armstrong Rails to Trails Association has volunteered hours and it can be part of the match. They're in kind with doing things such as a workday. It can be used to offset the money that's coming from DCNR. And we also have equipment. We have a skid steer and we have a tractor, and they'll be able to use that equipment to help complete the project.
And that in-kind means that all our volunteer hours are worth something when it comes to grants. And that's very important to have a person keeping track of everything. And that's myself and Dave will be able to, and Ron. We all keep track of our hours and then total them up, and then that equals X amount of dollars.
That's one big difference in Western Pennsylvania with how we can deal with grants and pay for grants as opposed to Eastern Pennsylvania. Eastern Pennsylvania, everything's tax dollar money, where we're putting in our own sweat and work equity that we're getting something for it, so that it doesn't have to cost a municipality or the county or the state more money, that we're actually doing much of the work. That allows us to do projects cheaper in itself, but it also allows us to match for the money that's coming to us.
You just cut out the middleman and do it yourself.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So when this idea was brought to our attention, you mentioned the Leo Club and possibly others may be doing something for Earth Day. Do you have anything to say about it?
Well, hopefully our high schools, maybe NHS, sometimes the hockey teams helped and cleaned up some of the trail with me when a few years back. But we're going to ask maybe the basketball teams or the Leo Club. They usually do a great Earth Day cleanup for just on the trail. So we're going to be more specific of what our needs will be, and they'll be able to help us. Maybe anybody else that wants to. Some people do come out and say, hey, I'll help you out, when they see you out there and you volunteering your hours.
You mentioned that some science students would be involved in the spring.
I'm going to see. We've been trying to see if they could work some kind of project with the science classes and maybe getting them to plant trees and eventually, with the Shade Tree Commission's permission, plant trees along the trail. But again, our project's going to be done 2-3 years down the line. Yeah. So we're just in the formulation aspects of it and just getting it ready. So maybe, I don't know, maybe by the time we combine schools, we'll all work together and have that project done with the kids in the high school and the science classes.
Is this project an ongoing type of project where there are always things being added or renovated?
I'm going to say a big yes to that.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that, we started developing the trail, and the Ford City section was actually the first section of trail that was built in like 1995 or 96. And, it's one of those things where as you develop additional sections of the trail, you learn from, I'll call them your mistakes, so to speak. And I'm going to say once we finish with everything, we're going to probably go back and start all over again on, redeveloping sections of the trail, because we found some things that worked, we found some things that didn't work, and as we, finish these sections up, we go, okay, this works, this didn't. We need to do this, we need to do that. One of the things, I give you an example that we didn't do in Ford City. And because frankly we didn't give it much thought. We didn't link the trail enough with the community. We only had one ramp, and that was down at the John B. Ford Park,
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we came to Katanning, we said, okay, we learned from that. We needed to link this up with the high rises so that the senior citizens could get out there. We needed to link it up with the schools, et cetera. So we learned from that in what we didn't do in Ford City, we did in Katanning, and then we found out that it was important for these people to, as we went through like up to East Brady, we stopped at the lower end of East Brady, and the people of East Brady came to us and said, you got to bring the trail right into the downtown, So we ended up partnering with their sewer authority up there and extending the trail into the downtown region. So it's one that you think you're doing it right and you think you have all the answers, but then after you do it, you find out, okay, I could have done it, better.
It's all through trial and error because you have nothing to go off of.
Right, it's just starting somewhere, creating and doing, and then learning, like, oh, let's adjust this.
Yeah.
And we put ramps in at 8th Street in Ford City to accommodate the anybody that needs
Right.
to use a ramp.
Right.
So.
And
it's
like
just-
one of the projects that was funded in Katanning Borough this year is to provide, I believe it's an ADA access to the YMCA property.
That's what-
So we're linking the trail up with the Y, which you would think would be a logical conclusion, from the beginning, but we didn't do it properly, and now we're going to go back and we're going to do it and do it right.
And in the beginning, what we were looking at is getting a trail down, making the connections.
Right.
So if we're spending our own money, and even with some of these grants, we put very thin layer of limestone, but it let people know exactly where the trail was. So now we're going back and we're making that not only thicker, but we're looking at some invasive species of vegetation like Japanese knotweed. So we're looking at how can we control that and eradicate that. How can we make our drainage systems greener so that we have more butterflies, birds, other things along there, because we go into remote areas and people really like to see that. So the first was to get from point A to point B. Then as people started to ride it, they started to say, well, we'd like this a little smoother, and can you do this and you can do that? And they started to become involved with either doing or even donating money. So one thing leads to another. And as I tell people, when is the trail going to be finished? The trail's never going to be finished. That there's always going to be improvements made. As more and more people come on board, they're going to want to see more things along there. Right now we're looking at more and more benches so people can sit along the trail and look at these views along the Allegheny River, and they can see the wildlife and other things.
That's getting back to your earlier question about the aesthetics along the trail. Part of the amenities and the aesthetics along the trail. You have people that come from all different angles on, why I want to use the trail, and those people have legitimate ideas and concerns. So we try to work with them to address them.
So as far as the community goes throughout Ford City, how would you say they could get involved and help out?
I'm going to say probably the best way is through the
Contact me
yeah,
for the Parks and Recs.
the Park and Rec Committee down there.
Through Ford City Borough.
Mhm.
Call them and they'll contact me, or they see me on the street. I'm always available. But yeah, contacting us anytime they can volunteer. I mean, even if they called anybody at the
They
trail
call the Land
office
Trust if they're interested in volunteering.
for Rails to Trails. I'm a lifelong member at Rails to Trails, so I can go up and have contact with Ron and say he sends out the emails, or his person does, and we have people that can just hook on a website and check things out that way too, to say, how do we contact you? Best Ford City Borough office, and ask for Parks and Recs, and somebody wants to be involved. Any of the high schools want to be involved more, in their section of the community. That'd be great.
And I think one of the most important things is just get out on the trail and use it. See what we
Right.
have the whole way up to Brady, and then you're going to understand the concept and what we're doing. And I think that's the word of mouth spreading the trail itself helps with getting more volunteers to do things and different amenities along the trail. That people on the trail, that's important.
So you said about the school district. How do they utilize this trail?
Well, I take my physical education kids out 5 days a week sometimes. We go out and use the FIT Trail. We go out, we had the PEP grant, which was additional funding brought into us. And we had that a few years back. We had it for 3 years. We've gotten bicycles, so we go out on the bike. I've created a trail with our extended riverfront trail from the Rails to Trail area in Fort City, and we do different loops that way. I know at Katanning High School, you guys go north, and you trek up north and back, you know, and I think the Katanning Middle School here does use it too, with their bicycles, and we all, you know, take our paths either north or south, and put in 5, 6, 7 miles of biking in a class period, how many miles we can get, and we're fortunate to have the PEP grant, which was millions of dollars poured into our school district, and it was great to see getting these bicycles as well as the exercise poles. So we feel like we're skiing without the snow, but we could use them in the winter. It's been too cold for some to go out though, but I think especially myself, I use it constantly. You know, I think the kids need to be outside enjoying the sunshine, and I point out different aspects from our garden club. They have different flowers, so I point out, you know, different parts of nature or different aspects of our historical sites in Ford City. I let them go read some things that way, or where the 41-mile marker is in town, you know, on the trail. And what does that mean? You know, like we're 41 miles away from Pittsburgh by rail, though. So I get out and I use it. I use it a little bit of history, maybe even a little science and math by letting them know what heart rates they need to be at, and then the bicycle, they have more freedom to get more exercise time in, and just get out there and use it.
It's a smart way. What other groups and organizations make use of this trail?
As we reiterated, Armstrong, Healthy Armstrong, the Rails to Trails, you know, the Leo Club comes, the Parks and Recs,
Rotary Club.
the Rotary Club.
You know, Kiwanis, the Lions clubs have made
we have
use
many,
of it.
many.
The YMCA.
With the Y.
Yeah.
So we have many
It's
people.
beneficial to all.
Yeah, for everybody. I mean, no area goes unturned without being used.
There was a concept that those of us in the land trust thought about whenever we did the purchase back in the early 1990s. The Allegheny Valley Railroad, as it was known back then, opened up Armstrong County for development, and it also linked the little hamlets along the Allegheny River together. And we viewed the acquisition and development of the Armstrong Trail as something that should link all of the communities together and further the economic development of the Armstrong County area.
Is there a website for the trail?
Yes, ArmstrongRailsToTrails.org.
And where can trail goers park to access the trail?
Well, there's several places within the town of both Ford City and Katanning that people can park along the street and go onto it. But I like to have people go further away from the town so they get to see some of the more remote areas. One area is 2.5 miles north of Katanning along the River Road at the Bernie Snyder picnic area where Conshohock Creek goes into the Allegheny River. Another place, and one of my favorite places, is at Lock 8, where you can go up along the river to Lock 8 and park and actually walk about a quarter of a mile till you come to the first eagle's nest that's on the right hand side. So that's a very pretty area, and you have a lot of migrating waterfowl all the time going in and out of that area, especially the spring and fall. So that's another area. And you can go further into Templeton. There's the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission has a parking area right along the trail in Templeton. And then we're developing other places in more remote areas where you probably need a map, a GPS, or you'll end up like Dave's story where the guy
It's
doesn't.
41 miles away where he should have been.
But there is a very nice trail map that's put out by the Armstrong Trails Association that identifies most of these parking areas.
And it's on their website as
Yeah,
well.
it's on the website, and that's probably, I'm going to say, the best place to go is go on the website. You'll probably have the most accurate and up-to-date information there.
And does the Parks and Rec have any other projects planned or that you've already done?
As we said, the Fit Trail is one of the major projects we've done on the trail, and that was our $10,000 project. And then, as we said, we're just working on the 14th Street project to the McCain Street, which is in McGran Manorville area, to finish that. Those are the two major trails. And then, other than just always trimming trees or, fixing cracks on the trail, we're still trying to work and, fix the cracks on the trail. Those are some major projects we'll have to do.
Do you have any final words for the viewers?
If you want to get involved, please come to a Rails to Trails Association meeting. That's on their website. Call the Land Trust if you're interested in volunteering, or if you're from the Ford City area and you want to help out Stacy and us down there, go to the borough office or see Stacy out on the street and let her know, and we'll hook you up.
Yeah, I have my high school website's up there too. My email address. If somebody is interested, they can find that off of the high school website at Ford Cities or Armstrong School Districts.
I recommend that you just go to more of the remote areas, and even if you only walk 1/8 of a mile the first time and you feel comfortable, then go 1/4 of a mile, then go a mile and whatever. But go to these more remote areas and see the vistas that we have, the wildflowers, the wildlife that we have, and just the beauty of the natural setting.
Armstrong County is a special place. We tend to take it for granted because we all grew, for the most part, we grew up here. We
yeah.
live here, and it's second nature to us. People that come in from out of the area, they just say, do you realize what you have here? And we have to scratch our heads and say, no, we don't, because we've just grown accustomed to it.
Yeah, beautiful river. The Allegheny River is just so pristine. And then having the trail along that, and then just all the nature. And being from town, I go and use the town Ford Cities trail the most. But I do have friends that go north or south, and it is. And that's where my next adventure will be, is going more to the northern areas where it is more remote and you can see and enjoy the beautiful nature.
Well, that's our show for today. I'd like to thank our guests, Mrs. Stacy Klukin, Mr. Ron Steffi, and Mr. Dave Rupert, for giving some time out of their busy schedules to talk to us about our fantastic project. We look forward to revisiting the site when it is complete. Our thanks also go out to the TV production students of Katanning High School, led by their teacher, Mr. Don Swanson. They were our film crew today. Also, a special thanks to Mr. Swanson for filling in as the director of today's show for Mr. Garatano, who could not be with us today. Please join us again next week for another look at the Armstrong School District. Visit our website for updated information about the district, and have a great week.